The raging mini-war between China and Vietnam has momentarily diverted our attention from the pitiful plight of the refugees of our own Indochina War, the war we lost. Our secret army is the story of a remarkable and little-known group of those refugees, the veterans of our so-called secret war in Laos. For 15 years, the U.S. fought a secret war against the communist Pathet Lao and the North Vietnamese, not with American troops, but with native Laotians instead, tens of thousands of them, Hmong tribesmen. We used to call them the males, but they don't like that name. To them it sounds like Guk or Slope. Hmong means free men, they say. And though some few of the Hmong fought on the side of the communists, the great majority fought for us under the direction of and on the payroll of the CIA. When we lost the war, the North Vietnamese took Laos under their control, and ever since, the Hmong, the soldiers and their families, have been fleeing to the only haven they can find, to northeast Thailand across the Mekong River. But thousands of them hope desperately that Thailand is but a way station for them on the road to the land of their old ally, the United States. Twilight on the Mekong River near Nong Khai in northeast Thailand. And across the Mekong, communist Laos, effectively ruled by Vietnam. At this moment, just beyond those river banks, there are scores of Laotians, men, women, and children, planning their escape, planning to slip into that river tonight aboard logs or makeshift rafts, or even with lengths of bamboo underneath their arms like water wings, to make their break to freedom, either tonight or tomorrow night or the next. They've been coming across the Mekong at the rate of 4,000 a month, and 1,000 of those each month are the Hmong. In fact, that very night, 50 miles upriver, a group of 170 Hmong refugees came across the Mekong. We found them by chance the next day, men, women, and children, camped in front of the local police station. Our companion and guide was Edgar Pop Buell, an old Laotian hand who worked with the Hmong for the U.S. government. How long had they been walking before they came across the Mekong?
20 days.
20 days walking. Why did they come? The leader of the group told us they had been driven from their villages by Vietnamese and Pathet Lao troops, their crops destroyed, their homes burned. And they said they had also been hit from the air by a strange chemical, either powder or gas. Airplanes did drop gas on his villages? Many of them had felt dizziness, sore eyes and throats, nausea and diarrhea, and worse. Did anybody die as a result of that?
6 people.
6 of them had been killed. And they said there were 400 more from their villages waiting at that moment on the other side of the river for a chance to cross. The Thai Police Detention Center at Nong Khai, where we met hundreds more Hmong who had in recent days crossed the Mekong. This group started out with 93 people. Only 26 of them made it to Thailand. Many of the refugees said they too had seen tribesmen killed by chemicals dropped from the air.
Look like a small raining. Look like raining.
Looks like rain coming down?
Yes.
Was anybody hurt? Did anybody get dizzy or vomit or die?
20 people dead by the gas.
20 people killed by the gas? Pop Buell is a widower who left his farm in Indiana to go to Laos for the U.S. aid program, an adjunct there of the CIA's secret war. These pictures were filmed by CBS News there 9 years ago. Today, Pop Buell says we have betrayed the Hmong.
They became refugees because we was encouraging them to fight for us. As I promised them myself, have no fear, we will take care of you. And taking care of you is not in a refugee camp.
We promise, the United States government, you as a representative of the United States government, promise the Hmong people, the males, we will take care of you.
Absolutely.
You fight for us, we'll pay you. If we win, fine. If we lose, we'll take care of you.
Absolutely right. I think they still have that faith in us.
Who are these people, the Hmong, and what debt, if any, does the United States owe them? Hmong tribesmen meeting recently at a refugee camp in Thailand. Just a few years ago, many of these same men were officers in the secret army. They were valiant, resilient, dependable fighters on the side of the United States in the Indochina War. Under terms of the Geneva Agreement of 1962, all foreign powers agreed to pull their troops and military advisors out of Laos. But both sides ignored that agreement, and President Kennedy ordered the CIA to recruit the Hmong. The CIA would provide arms, training, salaries. Hmong General Vang Pao would provide the troops, and of course the casualties. Tens of thousands of Hmong took up arms, men, women, even children, some of them as young as 10. We used these men to fight for us. American soldiers didn't fight because these fellows were fighting in their place.
Every one of them that died, that was an American back home that didn't die, or one that was injured or wasn't injured. Somebody in nearly every family was either fighting or died fighting.
At the height of the secret war, the CIA base at Long Chen reportedly had one of the busiest airports in the world. Hmong, Lao, and CIA pilots flew thousands of dangerous rescue and ground support missions. Half the Hmong pilots were killed in action. Hmong soldiers ran spy missions deep inside enemy territory, even entering China to tap telephone lines there for the CIA. CIA personnel and Pop Buell told us they were ordered to keep the Hmong in combat, even though Americans on the spot realized it was a lost cause. We kept these guys fighting for us.
That's right.
Even after you and a lot of others thought it was pointless.
That's right.
By the time the U.S. finally pulled out in 1975, the Hmong had been decimated. Out of their total population in Laos of no more than 350,000, 10,000 had been killed, tens of thousands more wounded. Their casualty rate was 100 times higher than that of the United States in Vietnam. But though the Indochina War has ended for us, for them it still continues. State Department officer Lionel Rosenblatt directs the American refugee effort in Thailand. I asked him why the ferocious communist attacks on the Hmong, even as they leave. Why kill them on the way out?
We can only theorize that there is a real fear on the part of the authorities in Laos and the North Vietnamese that the Hmong will come back to fight another day. They have a distinguished record of fighting. There's a long history of animosity as between the Hmong and the Vietnamese.
Is there any revenge involved because they worked for CIA, because they worked for the United States government?
I would assume there's a great deal of that having worked for almost 15 years for the United States, that these people are still seen very much as our accessories. What happened during the war in Laos was that the North Vietnamese were stalled very effectively by the Hmong, and that war is now continuing. The full strength of the North Vietnamese army is being brought to bear against the Hmong in their village areas in Laos.
You get more of an idea of how rugged has been the Hmong's escape from Laos at the hospital in the United Nations refugee camp at Nong Khai. Levi Roque, a Philippine doctor who works for the International Rescue Committee, told us what a toll the escape had taken on his patients.
Pneumonia and malnutrition case. And this is a case of malnutrition also with pneumonia. And this is pneumonia also. And that patient is suffering from severe malnutrition, dysentery, and pneumonia. You can see skin and bones.
The doctor told us about this woman, widow of a man who had fought in the secret army for more than a decade. She was coming across the river with 5 of her children. 4 of them were shot and killed. She was shot in the leg, and her remaining son escaped with a bullet wound in the back. Do you get many gunshot wounds here in the hospital, people who are shot at as
Many.
they leave Laos?
Yes, many.
What's the matter, doctor?
This is a case of 3 diagnoses: acute gastroenteritis, pneumonia, and severe malnutrition.
And she's the mother?
Yes, she's the mother.
She and her family came across the river.
Yes. When they cross the river or swim, the water is really very cold.
It is cold.
Yeah. So that's one of the main factors also that cause pneumonia also. And without food, escaping, walking so many weeks without food also. There is no chance for this patient because the patient cannot urinate anymore.
2 hours later, this child died. Yet another refugee camp in northeast Thailand and another kind of treatment. A shaman, a witch doctor, tries to exorcise the evil spirits from the baby's body. But the mother is also having her child treated by the camp's doctor. Like her, most of the Hmong find themselves trapped between two worlds, the old and the new. Most of them realize they will never go back to their traditional life in the highlands of Laos. They realize that Thailand cannot absorb the huge numbers of refugees, Vietnamese, Cambodian, and Laotian, now in camps there. The Hmong want to begin a new life. About 8,000 of them have gone to the United States. 50,000 are in Thailand, in the camps. Perhaps 20,000 more will make it across the Mekong. Not all want to leave Southeast Asia, but they do want out of the teeming refugee camps where thousands of them have languished for more than 3 years.
Well, our problem in U.S. program terms is this. We don't have enough numbers to accommodate those who served with us in Laos, both Lao and Hmong. We're way behind. We have a backlog of 20,000 at the moment. Except for our own, the French is the only other government responding to this at all. On a proportional basis, the French are taking more refugees from Thailand than we are.
Because the number of refugee openings in the United States is so limited, U.S. officials have set up a series of priorities. First come refugees with immediate family already in the U.S. Next, people who work directly for the U.S. government. The salaries of the men who served in the secret army were in effect paid by the U.S., by the CIA. But because the money was funneled through Hmong General Vang Pao, those soldiers are labeled as indirect employees of the U.S., and so their cases are given much lower priority. As I understand it, just these three fellows who came over within the last week or 10 days, who were gassed on the way out, who saw some of their friends die on the way out, who fought for Vang Pao, who fought as U.S. soldiers, who fought in that so-called secret war in Laos, and who were promised that we would take care of them. Their chances of coming to the United States the next year or 2 or 3, the way things go right now, are minimal.
I would say their chances are uncertain at best.
John Tucker, U.S. aid officer. Now, John Tucker, this man arrived here. He was wounded. He lost his leg back in 1961. What are his chances of getting to the States?
He doesn't have a good chance at all under the present program.
Why?
Because there's so many more highly qualified people in the camps that we can't even touch because the quota numbers are so few.
We can't use you no more. Goodbye, we're finished with you.
Dawn in the refugee camp at Loi. A special dawn for 165 Hmong boarding buses that will take them to Bangkok. In a few days, they will be in America, starting new lives in 17 different states. Those who saw the Hmong fight and die in Laos say they are stoic, that they rarely cry or admit pain. But this morning at Loi, it is something different. Almost all are leaving some family behind, cousins, fathers, grandparents. And there is no way of knowing if they will ever see them again. What about the Hmong who have made it to America? How have they fared? From most reports, they have done well. Mike Carroll works in Thailand for World Vision, a volunteer agency. He had just returned to Loi from a trip home to Illinois, where he visited 360 Hmong immigrants in 6 different communities. How are they doing?
Well, I think they have adapted the best of all the refugees because they expect the least and they appreciate the opportunity to be in America.